Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. Today I wanted to share with you an oldie from CRKT. This right here is the S-2. And so this knife made its debut around the year 2000. So this one is going on well over 20 years old at this point. So the S2 came in several different sizes, and this model here is the 7503. And I think this is the largest variant of the S2 because the overall length of this knife comes in at right about 8.6 inches. The blade length here has about 3.5 inches of cutting edge, and in hand this knife definitely feels like a big boy. And what is nice though is that this is not a super heavyweight knife because in the weight of the knife it only comes in at 4.6 ounces. And so that's really not bad at all for a knife of this size. And you know, for the year 2000, this knife was pretty revolutionary. Because today, of course, titanium frame locks, they're a dime a dozen. But for a company like CRKT 20 years ago, this was a flagship knife. So we have fluted titanium scales. This is of course a titanium frame lock, and looking at the details on the knife, everything on these bead blasted handles is smooth and sleek. The edges are nicely chamfered out. Everything on this knife was just CNC'd to perfection, which again for the time period was pretty revolutionary. I love the geometry on this lock bar. You know, the curves and the angles, it just looks really, really classy. And so to this day, these knives are still really well thought of, and it really showed, you know, what production companies like CRKT, you know, they could produce when they really tried. You know, our blade here, this is ATS 34 steel, and this version is the plain edged variant. As you can see, it has just thumb stud opening, you know, right hand side thumb stud opening. But the action is really just amazing. The blade itself, it does run on Teflon washers, and it's still super smooth to open and close. The action is just really, really impressive here. And our blade does have some jimping on the spine, which I find interesting. You know, the vintage CRKT catalog back in 2000 refers to the jimping, what we call it now, of course. They were broad friction grooves, so very direct, very literal translation of what they are. And we can see that this model here, it was made in Taiwan, you know, so no issues there. You know, obviously the factory that CRKT used, they knew what they were doing with the S2 and made a very, very nice knife. And the hardware on this knife is super robust. I mean, we have 3 screws holding the knife together, and they're all T10 Torx screws. And the pillar construction is very beefy, it's overbuilt. And right here you can see how thick the blade stop is. And it's a full open flow through design on this frame lock. You know, we do have a pocket clip. It's a titanium pocket clip here. And, you know, typical early CRKT, you know, I could even say early folding knife, you know, it's tip down only and it's right hand side only. The pocket clip does carry pretty high in the pocket, as this knife was around, of course, you know, well before even the term deep carry meant anything. And of course, you know, I did pick up this knife secondhand. And so unfortunately, my version here did not include the original box, you know, but I am very grateful that for a 20-plus-year-old knife, it looks like this knife was a safe queen its entire life. I mean, there are no marks, no signs of usage, and I am betting that this is still the original sharp factory edge. We can take a look at the lockup of the knife, and you can see that the lock bar here, it engages just a little more, maybe, I don't know, what is that, 60%? So really just right for a titanium frame lock. You know, there's no play, there's no wiggle in the blade, and like I said, it's really smooth. The centering on the blade isn't great. It does favor the show side of the knife, and there's no rubbing or anything though. And I will mention that I have made, since I bought this knife, I've made 0 adjustments to the pivot because essentially the action is really, really nice. I don't really see a need to even change that right now. So the centering's not perfect. I'm okay with that. You know, but if I really wanted to be picky and name any flaw I can find on this S2, it would be that the blade itself is actually not sharpened all the way, I guess you'd call it maybe the heel of the edge, the end of the edge here. You can see right here near the handles, the edge just kind of blunts outward. So the edge that is present on the knife is very sharp, very usable, but about this last quarter inch or so of the blade just kind of flares out and it's dull and flat, as you can see. So I don't know if that they were all that way or if my knife is unique in that regard, but it's something to point out, I guess. But really, let's talk about the purpose of this video. I am going to have this knife properly modded because when I bought this, it's just so big and there is so much titanium real estate on this knife. I feel that it really deserves some spa treatment. So I have seen from the company, and I've bought from them before, Way of Knife. They have a modification service called the Creative Freedom Package. And so basically you pay them, you send the knife in, and they go crazy with mods. So you don't really know what you're going to get. So in theory, it should be a complete surprise as to what this knife will return to you as. And so that's kind of, I like the excitement part of that. That's kind of cool. And I'm going to send this in, and it'll likely take a while before it's back in my hands here. But of course, here with the magic of video and the internet, let's check out the result right now. Okay, so welcome back. And now, of course, first thing I have to say, I am very impressed with how this knife came out. So this is, of course, the very same knife you just saw a second ago, but after their work that was done, let's take a look. So this S-2, so first off, on this side of the knife, take a look at the pocket clip here. So they did what they call a Fomascus finish on this, so it looks kind of like that Timascus type finish, but I was so right because there's so much titanium on this knife that the finish just came out really good. It gave them a lot of room to work on it. So take a look at that pocket clip. Super classy. I mean, this is just really nicely done. So very nice anodization on there. So really, really nice looking. We can also see that they bead blasted all the hardware on the scales. So all of the screws here, hardware is now a nice bead blasted finish. So it's that dark gray color. Very classy. But of course, the show side of the scale, this is where the magic is. Because of course we have this really nice blue anode job on all the titanium. And I was kind of curious what they would do with these three lines, these three fluted lines on the handle. And so what we can see is they did that same like Fomascus anodization job in those grooves. So you can see the yellow and the blue and kind of pinkish reddish colors popping out of there. Just looks really, really nice. Very, very classy. Just super well done. Really, really amazing work here. And again, I had no idea what they were going to do with this knife. So I'm very happy to share this with you. And when it comes, of course, to the blade as well, we can see right here, take a look at the finish on it. It's a very dark finish, and they call this I think their working finish. So it's essentially like a acid stone wash, so very dark color, which kind of contrasts well with the blue, in my opinion. So if you look closely through it, you can still see the CRKT logo, the blade steel markings. That still is very visible, but the actual blade itself is entirely different from the bead blasted plain color blade that we sent in. And really nothing else besides that. Everything is still very functional. This looks like a show knife now. Like this is like something really, really nicely done. And so I honestly can't really recommend, Way of Knife enough, because I'll be honest with you. Here's my timeline. I sent this knife in on a Friday, to my post office. And the knife arrived at Way of Knife on a Tuesday. And by Wednesday morning, the knife was on its way back to me. And it was back in my hands on Friday. So it literally took 7 days from the time I dropped this knife off in the post office to checking my mail and getting this knife back in my hands. So that's really an amazing turnaround. And now, of course, they do advertise it could take up to 2 weeks to get this work done. But man, they were right on it like overnight. And I do want to say, I do want to let you know, I do know what the knife was going to look like because on their social media, their Instagram, their Facebook, they do post pictures of all their works in progress, and I follow them, so I naturally saw the knife. As soon as they were done with it, I saw it was posted. So it's not really a surprise to me as to what it looked like, but it kind of, had me salivating a little bit, seeing, oh my gosh, that's my knife, and that's going to be coming to me in a couple of days. So that was kind of cool to get kind of a sneak peek of what they were going to deliver. But overall, I mean, for the price paid, which was $75, I think that's a very reasonable
amount to pay for the amount of work that they're putting into it and the turnaround time as well. So I really am satisfied with how this knife came out. Really, really nice showpiece. And of course, you could still carry this. You could still use it just like like any other knife, but now it has a story to it. So really cool that we have the CRKT S-2 20-plus-year-old knife, and it's essentially a brand new blade in my opinion. So I'm very happy to share this with everybody. I'll leave a link below to Way of Knife, so if you have any interest in their website or their services, by all means, go check them out. But overall, I hope you enjoyed watching this, a nice classic, somewhat modernized. Hope you all have a nice day, everybody. See you later. Bye.